Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, and I am back with the 8th and final round of Swiss contention for the second Reddit Championship Series. Now, we have seen a ton of interesting decks, cool archetypes, all of which are going to be completely shafted in Top Cut for Synchro Eldritch. I apologize, but strap in because that's what you're about to see. This is the final round of interesting matches, however, and I have got a doozy. Two decks, one of which you probably have not seen in a while, and a commentator that you should be more than familiar with. Sir Emanon, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, and I hope you are as well. Hopefully, we are excited to commentate this, pretty throwback matchup to part of the 2019 metagame, that being Salamangreat versus Cyber Dragon, which is pretty interesting, especially in Master Rule 5 context, where a lot of people kind of wrote off Cyber Dragon as just kind of off the map, simply because, people aren't forced to use the EMZ anymore, making Mega Fleet a lot worse. But here we are with a player who managed to make it to the final round of Swiss X2, which is the record of both of these players. So we might be able to see just exactly how capable this deck is.
Right. We haven't seen Sidra outside of, I don't know, a locals context for a while now. But I would wager that this is probably its best matchup. You get to play against a deck that uses the EMZ, doesn't have an opportunity to avoid doing so, and the strength of Salamangreat in a lot of ways is the stickiness of cards like Sunlight Wolf. While you have a Balinx in the graveyard, that's completely nullified by cards like Chimera Tech, Mega Fleet, Dragon. I might give the edge to Sidra, even though it is clearly a less capable deck.
Yeah, it's the underdog for sure, but I feel like in this particular isolated matchup, Cyber Dragon has a lot of things going for it. Not the least of which is, of course, new indirect support in the form of Predaplant Verite Anaconda, which this player happens to be on. This is a very, very good way to send things like Overload Fusion or even Cyberload Fusion to just get Rampage Dragon out for really, really quick OTKs, which is something the deck really has kind of not seen in a while, especially like when it was Cyber Orcus that was more popular. But going back to the good old OTK blind second sort of strategy here.
Yeah, if you are familiar with Cyber Dragon only in the context in which it was an engine for a quick infinity, it has completely morphed into an engine for quick rampage, and the deck is much better for it. The Salamangreat deck, on the other hand, is pretty standard, I suppose. It's almost shocking how unremarkable it is.
Yeah, it's pretty much, take a Salamangreat list from, about a year ago, apply whatever ban list changes and whatever small amount of support the deck got, things like Parallax Seed come to mind, and you have yourself a deck.
I guess the one weird thing is they're on 3 copies of Flame Buffalo, and as a result, they have shaved almost every other normal summon. They're playing one-ofs of Foxy, Falco, Formund, Skipper, and Lady Debug, like not wanting to brick on multiples of like cards that eat your normal.
Yeah, seeming to be more of like a bit of a toolbox for things like sign up mining, just grabbing whatever you need at the time, and just hoping that Buffalo can cycle through your engine to get you to a lot of your win condition, which happens to be the non-engine disruption in the form of like hand traps and such. So it's Salamangreat. We've seen this deck for quite a while now, so nothing too different here.
All right, so without any further ado, let's get into the final round of Swiss. If you are interested in seeing any of the rounds past this, make sure to subscribe to Sir Emanon's channel, where we will be doing the first round of Top Cut pretty soon. The two of them are going to perform the die roll, and yeah, pretty much nothing depends on this die roll, I would say. It looks like a Bluno Sin Rhoser, I'm going to call them Bloon, is going second, actually. Wow, and Sidra forced onto the play.
Yeah, perhaps maybe knowledge of the matchup, or even perhaps potential board building capabilities from Cyber Dragon that we might not have seen before. And opening Galaxy Soldier is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, so for a long time, this deck had to be satisfied with just using Galaxy Soldier to poop out a Cyber Dragon Infinity. Unfortunately, it's being infinite in permanence, which is a lot of the reason why this card was cut. It's such a huge minus to spend 2 cards on your hand on Galaxy Soldiers just to eat a singular piece of negation and be unable to put up your 1 negate board. However, it looks like this one plays through it with a copy of Cyber Dragon Noxter.
Yeah, this is a very, very good extender in this particular case. Hers was able to grab the OG Cyber Dragon, and now we can pitch it for Nashter, which can obviously bring it back on summon. So now we have 2 level 5 machines and can go into Nova anyway.
This is fun. Cyber Dragon Nova does, in fact, have an effect for those of you who only know it in the context of decks like Cosmo. It can summon a Cyber Dragon from your hand or from your graveyard, and while you may think there wasn't a target in there before it was detached, Hertz is actually considered a Cyber Dragon in grave. So you can do all of this, end on a copy of CDI, and you've got a couple of ones. You might as well swap one under that guy as well.
Yeah, so putting Hertz underneath the Infinity ensures that when you go to negate something, you can also get extra value off detaching it as a cost. So that's pretty good. Salamangreat opening fairly well here. We have a fair amount of extension in terms of getting Exceed, but we're going to go ahead and Desires right away first, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, Pot of Desires at the start of the turn is a little frightening. It's going to eat the Cyber Dragon Infinity. I think that's a pretty good blind hit, especially because you have more conditional negation in your hand, things like Effect Veiler, the set copy of Called by the Grave. However, the Salad deck is on like 6 one-ofs. I mean, there's a very high chance that a lot of those are now locked in the face-down banish zone.
Yeah, that's one of the scary things, especially with Gazelle going to 1, of course, all those ban lists to go, and just the way that the deck is, it kind of shaved out a lot of the, the less, I suppose, versatile Salamangreats and minimize them as much as possible. And we see Foxy getting hit with the Veiler, so that is also going to cut off a lot of the potential other resource access.
Oh no, and it looks like they're trying to resolve the Balinx effect right now, just to find that, I believe, yup, there it is, face down banished, no sanctuary this game, and it looks like no parallel exceed effect either. Oh, did they forget it, or were they hoping to get it off the reincarnation summon and just forgot?
Yeah, it's possible that, they only decided to trigger Balinx because, maybe the thought process was relinking into Balinx and then triggering Exceed there. But unfortunately now we have missed the window entirely. And with Will, not really having a target to fire after this Call by the Grave, we're not going to be able to make a Sunlight Wolf either. So just like that, our resources have dwindled pretty drastically here.
Wow, I mean, the Cyber Dragon player got everything they wanted here. Balinx is a fantastic card to attach under CDI because it loses all of its really insane protection abilities if it's not in the graveyard in the first place. Will, of course, doesn't target, but doesn't matter if there's only one in the graveyard regardless. I mean, it's Cyber Dragon's game to lose from this position.
Yeah, when you're staring down an Infinity, normally that's not too big of a deal for a lot of decks, but the game state at this point is so simplified that, just facing a negation every single turn is going to be a lot of work cut out for Salamangreat, and we see the attaching of the Balinx and then just going in for 2,700 damage, and we're just going to go ahead and pass turn here.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely fine. The Rage in hand, ooh, what a bad pickup in a hand that can't make a Salamangreat.
And Core being ripped off the top
Always
immediately is going to accelerate the pace of the game. It's going to be attempted to be met with Ash, but of course there is the Infinity to just go ahead and negate that. So Core going to resolve, grabbing ourselves an emergency, and that is going to signal the end of the game pretty shortly, I have a feeling.
Yeah, Cyber Dragon Noxter the ad, and then of course you can special a Cyber Dragon Noxter by pitching the Cyber Dragon still remaining in the hand, not getting a lot of utility out of the card while your opponent doesn't control monsters. We'll get a Nova, and what do you know? Nova doesn't need material to turn into a CDI. That's, if not the end of the game, very close, but it certainly will be when we link these two off for a Seeger.
Yep, and that is just a lot of damage, and with no potential activations or hindrances, Salamangreat is going to scoop up game 1. So yeah, this is kind of a good demonstration of what Cyber Dragon can possibly do going first. They're able to make a board even through a impermanence there, which was pretty good.
That was a hand that had impermanence and Ash, and it was just, they had the necessary extension to get past the imperm and never gave their opponent an opportunity to fire the Ash until they had CDI on field. I mean, yeah, it looked super devastating, and certainly the sequencing from the Salamangreat player could be just a little bit better, but I don't know if that would have been the difference between victory and defeat.
Right, so going into game 2, it looks like Salamangreat is once again forcing Cyber Dragon on the play.
Ooh, and it looks like they've been
rewarded. Pretty good depending on siding.
I mean, look at this hand.
Yeah,
there's not a lot you can do.
Not a very, very strong opening here. I wonder what the play is going to be. It looks like it's going to be Nashter to pitch a Cyber Dragon and bringing back Cyber Dragon, and we're going to go ahead and make possibly a Seeger.
Oof. Well, it looks like you can make Rampage Dragon here. By linking these two off to go to Seeger, we have the requisite material to fire off this Overload Fusion, banish these two, go into a copy of Rampage Dragon. You can send like a Core and a Hertzen setup for next turn, give your opponent a couple of monsters they must remove or they're going to get OTK'd, but none of these have protection, none of them offer negates, they're just big donguses.
Yeah, and Ash, on top of that, makes that whole play a lot less valuable. So the only line of defense here is that Nibiru in hand, which, to be fair, is very, very good against this particular matchup.
Oh, for sure. I mean, certainly Nibiru is at its best versus decks that don't get to negates in 5 summons. You know, this isn't Pendulum, this isn't Adamancipator, this is a deck that will not put up a negate, will just put up sticky monsters and trap cards. Going into Balinks here before we fire the Pot of Desires, what do you know, we are actually going to get not only the Parallel Exceed this game, but also the Salamangreat Sanctuary.
Yeah, so things looking a lot better in terms of actually getting value out of the cards that we have in our hand. And Jaguar, of course, is one of the Salamangreats that you actually want to have in rotation, especially like if you intend on grinding.
It's weird. They shaved so many normal summons to facilitate Flame Buffalo opens, but sometimes your best hands do start with normal summons, something like Salamangreat Jaguar.
All right, and it looks like we're going to link summon into Update Jammer, trying to go for the quick OTK, but unbeknownst to the Salamangreat player, Nibiru is lying in wait.
I mean, transcode is the most fantastic Nibiru hit. You can even wait until the access code if you want. It's just so absolutely vulnerable. And you could have overlaid those parallel exceeds to go for something like a Rafflesia. You'd have the Gravehole on, and then you could fire off the pot. I guess that's not guaranteed, as the Gravehole could always end up in the banished pile, but yikes, it looks like they're going to have to pay for this pretty quickly.
Yeah, putting all the chips on the table here, trying to just end the game as quickly as possible against the notorious OTK deck. And it looks like, they might be able to clear the board here, but Nibiru is definitely still going to put in the work.
I like this, waiting for them to pop everything, because you're going to lose it to Nibiru anyway. You want the smallest token possible, and what's more, now you don't have to deal with Update Jammer and Transcode in the graveyard.
Yeah, pretty slick gameplay here, and it looks like end of main phase, Nibiru comes down. Would have actually been game with the Update Jammer, of course, but now we're going to have to force our way with Pot of Desires and try and find something we don't really actually. So this is not looking super good.
So Gamma theoretically might be on later. Let's just check real quick to make sure that Psyframe Driver isn't in the banished cards. Okay. And Salamangreat Rage and Roar, of course, aren't really doing a whole lot.
Yeah, once again, we're stuck in a position where we have the Salamangreat spells and traps, but no monsters to actually utilize them with at this point.
And big surprise, the Sidra player has drawn Core off the top of the deck. 2 games in a row, greatest player in the history of time, Stratos off the top, easy. It'll lead an Ash at least.
Well, that'll at least buy some time, and it looks like we're going to be eating a fair amount of damage, and that could possibly actually turn into a Verte Anaconda play, main phase 2, if we wanted to go for the same Rampage Dragon play as last turn.
I mean, it'd be frustrating. If you go into a Verte Anaconda and get the Rampage Dragon off, you'll lose Salamangreat Rage and Roar, but that's not the end of the world because they're both so recursive. Even so, I think it's unlikely you're going to resolve Verte Anaconda while we have a Gamma in the hand. Checking the banished real quick. Yeah, a bit of a tell, but as they pay the cost for Verte Anaconda, I think this Gamma will in fact come down.
Yep, so just like that, the board state is once again pretty equalized at this point.
Honestly, this has got to favor the Salamangreat player. Even though they invested so much into that access code play, Salad plays from its graveyard like nobody's business. All they need is something with which to make a Balinks, and they can bring back the Jaguar, start looping Sunlight Wolves, and flex these 2 back row traps, which will basically signal the end of the game.
Unfortunately, Impermanence is not a Salamangreat monster. While Cyber Dragon player manages to top deck Core 2 games in a row, the same luck cannot be applied for the Salamangreat player here, unfortunately.
And Noxter off the top. I mean, one player is clearly praying to the right god. We're going to go ahead and banish this Cyber Dragon Core, of course. There was never really any potential for the Sidra player to run out of resources. I believe the Core actually needs you to have a monster on your side of the field, however, so they'll have to wait at least a turn for that.
Right. However, there is still a Nashter here to be able to try and extend a bit. We'll probably get hit by impermanence here, I would imagine.
Oh my god, you can target Rampage. That's so strong.
Yeah, any monster with 2100 or attack or defense, pretty good.
And as you expected, yeah, here comes the Imperm. Okay, take 2, and we'll try this again next turn. There we go. Wow, keeping the Sanctuary in the hand forever has really paid off here, because now we can actually resolve Psynet mining.
Yeah, that was one of the better top decks that we could have asked for at this point in time, because now we get access to the, the notorious toolbox in Gazelle. We get Falco in circulation. We can bounce a Gazelle back to hand, make a Balinx, and start utilizing our Gazelle special summon, as well as the Jack Jaguar in graveyard as well once we make a Sunlight Wolf. So looking pretty good here.
Yeah, this game felt like it was up in the air until a Link monster made it onto the field. I think the only chance for the Sidra player to get back into the game, of course, is to do something like perform a Contact Fusion, but outside of that, they can't play through Rage and Roar. That's simply too much.
Yeah, and this board is definitely going to stick, even if it gets contacted next turn with like the Cyber Dragon that's in the hand. There is, of course, still the traps that we have to deal with, particularly Rage, which will still be live for at least its first effect, and then we can just try again next turn.
And what's really frustrating is while Cyber Dragon is such a fantastic out to cards like Sunlight Wolf that resist destruction, sending it to the graveyard in order to perform the Contact Fusion still causes Gazelle to trigger. So cards like Rage will be on even if the Sunlight Wolf isn't on the field. You can see the summon of Balinx here, I think, to preserve the Roar in a scenario where they do get Mega Fleeted.
Yeah, pretty heads up play to try and play around the just the main mechanic of the matchup here. Core looking to activate from the graveyard now that there is a monster on the Salamangreat player's field that is going to resolve, it looks like. We'll see if Nashter manages to, though, trying to bring back Rampage again.
Yeah, I think anything that brings back Rampage, you can't let happen.
Yeah, that is definitely going to get roared for sure.
All right, there's the OG Sidra, but unfortunately we do have the Rage, so we won't be able to Contact Fuse that bad boy away, and Gazelle triggers. That looks like the end of the game.
Yeah, we can also get an add back with Wolf here, and with a Veiler in hand only, that is definitely not going to be enough to combat next turn. So we're going into game 3.
Wow. It was weird that the Salamangreat player went on this huge heavy investment play that ended with an unfortunate Nibiru and walked with the game. I mean, just a testament to how recursive this strategy really is.
Yeah, really, as long as you get into your Salamangreat engine, if you have a simplified game state, it's going to favor you in a pretty large percentage of those games.
And for the third game in a row, the Sidra player going first. They lost and chose to go first. All right.
Yeah, looks like we're just, if we draw core, then we're nice.
This is hard. The Salamangreat player's hand is good insofar as it's got Flame Buffalo and a card to pitch, but bad insofar as it's got the worst possible card to pitch in Salamangreat Gazelle. The Rage and the Roar would have been on if they go first, but there's no guarantee they would have been able to start the loops necessary. A lot depends on the Flame Buffalo summon. We're going to normal summon the core to get a Repair Plant, and then link into Almirage, so we have a Cyber Dragon in the graveyard to activate Repair Plant. Just really wondering when the Gamma is going to come down.
Yeah, and we're going to try and add Galaxy Soldier to make our first turn play, because we, of course, have the Hertz combo. So this is guaranteed infinity, provided that this all resolves, of course.
And it looks like a significant amount of it is, at least. The Hertz is going to resolve, put the material in hand necessary to pitch to the other Galaxy Soldier. It is nice that you can recoup a little bit of your lost advantage there, but this is so high investment for a single negate. Here comes the Nova. I expect we'll try and summon back a Cyber Dragon.
Let's see if Gamma actually comes down here, because if it does, then Nova can actually float into any machine extra deck monster of the Cyber Dragon player's choosing. That is a legal target, of course. And it looks like Gamma is actually going to be chained to Nova.
Ooh, this is weird. Yes, it is good to prevent the Nova from resolving here. I don't think the Cyber Dragon player is on anything ridiculous like Beast King Barbaroid or any of the fusions you were playing in Cosmo format for this interaction. But oh wow, it won't actually even be destroyed provided we tribute the Salamangreat Almirage. Wow, that's so cool.
So that's pretty crazy, because all we really wanted was Nova to stick on board. The extra Cyber Dragon, from Nova's effect was really just a bonus, and we get the Infinity anyways. It looks like Infinity could potentially suck up something like a Gamma. Oh, but choosing to take Driver.
Whoa,
No,
no,
oh,
no,
no.
that's wrong!
So if the Driver ever ends up back in the graveyard, and there is another Gamma drawn at some point for Salamangreat, that Gamma can be activated again, actually. So it's pretty scary stuff.
I mean, it's funny, but yeah, definitely Gamma is the pick there. Wow, Almirage I thought was only played to get that core into the graveyard to enable a search of Repair Plant, but coming in clutch just to preserve the Nova on board. Signet mining off the top is pretty much the best possible thing you could ask for in this situation. You've got like 4 must negates. As long as you can play around a single Infinity, you should be fine even through something like an Effect Veiler.
Yeah, so let's see exactly how the sequencing is. Looks like mining is going to come down to pitch the Roar first.
I like that.
That is going to fiend the Infinity for sure.
Roar, of course, is recursive, even if you don't resolve the effect of something like a Reincarnation summoned Sunlight Wolf that would potentially be negated by an Effect Veiler. From here we can normal the Gazelle, and I think just generally pop off. Oh, or normaling the Buffalo. That complicates things massively.
Ooh, yeah, this is pretty risky because, like you mentioned last turn, like pitching the Gazelle is like the only target here, and especially with the overflow now, looks like we're going to try and have to hope to be a bit lucky.
Oh man, I mean, so the problem here, of course, is that the Flame Buffalo is going to go to the graveyard, I'd imagine. That means that you're not going to be able to trigger the Gazelle from hand because no Salamangreats are going to the graveyard. You probably have to pitch it in order to draw out of a hand that is otherwise just Rage and a normal summon you can't perform. And those cards are going to have to find a way to get Gazelle back, something like a Will or a way to search it. We are going to banish, looks like, just the Hurts in order to destroy the Flame Buffalo. Let's see if they decide to resolve its effect.
I think you kind of have to go all in here because passing on just Rage is definitely not going to be enough into an Infinity. So it looks like that's the play, and Drawing Desires is pretty good.
That's a nice one, but Falco is less than nothing from this position. We just need free specials.
Yeah, we need to draw Will, which is pretty much the only real way to get out of this. And Ash and Jaguar are not it.
Okay, so I guess there are theoretically scenarios in which we can win. If we can bait the Infinity with the Ash, like our opponent activates something that causes the Ash to go to the graveyard, and then Rage using the effect to send a Salamangreat from your hand to the graveyard to pop the Infinity, we're probably not dead and don't have to contend with the negate on our next turn, at which point we can just Jack Jaguar our way to victory.
All right, picking up a Hers. Let's see if the Cyber Dragon player is actually in a position to OTK with this Overload Fusion. It looks like that's going to be the attempt.
Oh, that's so massive. And firing this before the Ash Blossom has a chance to come down means that you're going to have to activate the Rage to stop the OTK right now. That'll fiend the Infinity, and I have no idea how you get out of it.
Yeah, Rampage Dragon is gonna come down, and it's gonna be angry because it gains a bunch of attacks. It gains attacks equal to the number of machines that you decide to send. So it can attack 3 times, and against an open field with an Infinity, that is definitely game.
I remember when this card was first spoiled, I remember thinking, well, the Foolish Burial 2 cards for extra attacks is an insane high roll ability, but it also heavy storms when it enters the battlefield. Both of those effects are worth investing in on its own, and they are both going to spell just the end of the game for this Salad player. I mean, you have to flip the Rage in response to this, but it's just going to eat an Infinity.
Yeah, you just got to try your best here. It's definitely going to get negated. We can try and Falco reset the Rage and hope to play for next turn, if at all possible.
Oh, but I guess the Rampage won't get the additional attacks if we Ash it, which is something.
Yeah, buys us a turn, and that could be enough, provided that we have Jack Jaguar still trying to recur resources.
We are very much on the back foot here. Looks like the Sidra player is thinking they have not yet normal summoned, so they can normal summon Hurts. Oh, wait. Oh my gosh, if they link summon a Verte Anaconda, is this game anyway? Are either of these effects hard once per turn?
It looks like they're not, so we can just send something like another Overload Fusion, and just like that, we have lethal still.
Wow, this is such an incredible benefit for the deck. You're able to Verte Anaconda with any errant materials on field just to try again on stuff like Rampage Dragon. As you said, sending the Overload Fusion to the graveyard, banishing a Core and a Hertz, summoning from our extra deck another Rampage Dragon, heavy storming again, attempting to send again, and this time it'll be successful. A Core and a Cyber Dragon, the pitch, and it gets, what, 3 attacks?
3 attacks, as well as the Verite Anaconda and the Infinity, and that is well over lethal.
Wow! And the Cyber Dragon player, I would not have expected with this hand from the Salamangreat player, but they came through and made it! This is an X2 player in contention for top 16. Folks, we may be seeing Cyber Dragon again shortly.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing if this deck can, come in and, just break more boards, or even just go first. It went first all 3 games and was able to put up, fairly formidable fields.
Wow, yeah. And exceptional sequencing from this pilot as well. Just playing around everything and being rewarded in spades. That is going to do it for us. Folks, do stick around for the top 16. A significant amount of the rounds are done, so you will see them uploaded back to back very shortly. If you are interested in watching how Top Cut is going to play out, again, check out Sir Emanon's channel. A lot of those matches are going to be there. And do sound out in the comments below on what you want to see in Top Cut, though I will be realistic with you. It's mostly Secret Slayers meta.
Yeah, we'll do our best to try and continue to give you guys as much diversity as possible, but there will come a point where we're probably going to see some Eldritch Synchro mirrors.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Eldritch Synchro is a reasonably interesting deck to cast. You can start explaining the Halka-Fibrax combo, get up, make a sandwich, come back, and they still won't be done with the turn. If nothing else, it's easy for us.
Yep, definitely for sure.
All right, so that's going to be it from us. See you in the next one. Any closing thoughts?
No, I think that's going to do it. We had a very, very successful and entertaining rounds of Swiss here. So looking forward to seeing what the Top Cut actually brings us.
Absolutely. See you next time.